Hello there, fellow male scholar. I'm going to destroy you using facts and logic. Just kidding. Seriously, I thought I was the only one in the entire world who understood that Christianity was Neoplatonism. But here you are, and your followers, I guess, understand this. And it is so important. It is so very important. But the reason I want to talk about this is because there's this crucial part that I know that it's just going over your head. You don't get it. You make these really great arguments, and I agree with them 100%. And then you say something that completely contradicts it. Like you're making an argument for this, but you don't know it. You don't know what you're actually making an argument for. And to get straight to the point, the argument you're making is that Christianity is Neoplatonist. Therefore, Christians believe in the world soul or the zeitgeist or the collective consciousness, the collective mind or psyche, and that is a form of metaphysics. So that's what I'm gonna go into in detail. It's okay. So I got notes, so I don't waste your time. Okay, so you said that there's like a true dialectic between the priest and the monk, or the two versions of paganism, and the two things you said were one was anthropomorphization versus something else having to do with like mysticism or whatever. I don't really know what that. All right. Well, so the anthropomorphization thing, where your soul goes up into space or some floaty place, is, as a widely held belief, is brand new. It's brand new, all right? And it exists only in the West, within only the past 1 or 2 generations. If you look at Russian Orthodox, they teach what's called divine simplicity. It proves that they're still Neoplatonist, whereas Christians in the West today, within the past few generations, are not Neoplatonist. Christians don't want anything to do with Neoplatonism. If you try to talk to Christians about Neoplatonists, they're going to say, "Shut up, you're evil, leave me alone." And you literally cannot argue with Christians on this. You will win every single argument against a Christian because, like you said, it's within Christianity. Christians don't know about this. They have no idea, and they don't care. And they literally go against the Bible and make shit up. They literally just make shit up off the top of their heads and completely ignore the Bible. And no one of these Christians is going to be able to explain what I'm telling to you right now. I'm the only one that's going to be able to explain this to you. I don't know if any of your followers are going to be able to explain this to you. So it's brand new. Where does it come from? Well, I think you're the expert on this too. PsyOps. I mean, come on, the government. I'll give you 2 guesses. And who does it affect? Literally everyone in the West within the past 1 or 2 generations, including Christians. Christianity is Neoplatonism, but Christians are not Neoplatonists in the West within the past 1 or 2 generations. Okay. It's no one knows about this, and literally no one cares about this. That there's that Christians are they used to be a Neoplatonist, but they're not anymore. And if you're being censored, it's not because you talk about this. Literally no one cares. And this is the true I think this is what you're trying to say. This is the true dialectic. Okay, so some of the things you said that Judaism is not materialism, and explained that the Kabbalah and the Zohar come from Neoplatonism. And you say that Christianity is Neoplatonism. That's correct. I know what you're trying to say, is what I mean. Like, the actual words you're using are not correct, but I totally know what you're trying to say, and you're 100% correct. You said that the Bible does not provide a basis for the soul or metaphysics. It doesn't make sense. If you make the best arguments forever out of anyone else that Christianity is Neoplatonism, and then you say Christianity doesn't have metaphysics, that contradicts itself. Neoplatonism is a kind of metaphysics. It's a form of monism. It literally is a basis for the soul. And the Bible, every time you show something in the Bible that proves your point, it's actually proving my point. Every single time the Bible is explaining its basis for the soul and metaphysics. Okay? It's the Bible's basis for the soul and metaphysics is Neoplatonist, and it's not anthropomorphization. But Christians today they anthropomorphize the soul and they anthropomorphize God. But okay. And they think of this floaty place. So yeah, you're gonna lose you're gonna win every time against Christians. They have no idea what they're talking about. Okay, so for example, I use the passage Ephesians 6:10-18, really good one that proves that Christianity is Neoplatonist. So our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the spiritual forces of evil, right? And I have Christians that literally reply to that by saying, well, maybe when angels and demons battle, there's no blood. So they literally imagine ghosts with ghost swords fighting up in the clouds, chopping each other's ghost limbs off. Oh, but because of Ephesians 6:10 or 12 says our struggle is not against flesh and blood. Oh, I guess ghosts don't have blood then. But then further down it says, take up the shield of faith, with which you can extinguish all the flaming arrows of the evil one. So how many times you're walking to work or whatever, you're walking down the street, and you have to hold up your shield of faith, or your ghost shield, because the evil one's shooting fire arrows at you, and you have to block the arrows with your ghost shield. How many times has that ever happened in the history of humankind? 0 times. And it doesn't say ghost shield, it says shield of faith. All right. So my point is, you're not talking about a ghost substance, and that's the argument you're making. I'm just saying, we're both correct on that. But the point is that it's a shield of faith, and faith it's in your mind, okay? It's not a substance that's separate. It's not dualism. It's within your mind. Yeah. So you said that there's no soul in the Bible. There's no soul in the Bible. You pretty much said it like that too. So if there's no soul in the Bible, and if there's no metaphysics in the Bible, then explain why the Bible talks about resurrection. And how is that possible without the soul? So it's not a lack of metaphysics, it's a different theory of metaphysics called monism, or Neoplatonism. So really quickly, resurrection is possible in the Bible because of the same reason Sheol is a place of silence. Because in the Bible, or in Neoplatonism, there is no separation between the material body and the soul. So it's not saying that there is no soul, it's saying that there's no separation between the body and the soul. That's what it's explaining. It's explaining monism, which is what Neoplatonism is. It's not a lack of the soul. It's not a lack of metaphysics. It's called the collective consciousness, or like the Neoplatonists call it, the world soul, or the zeitgeist, or whatever. There's a million different words for it. And that's what Christians believe. And according to the Bible, I know I'm right, that the word soul or the word spirit, literally the literal meaning of the word is mind. There is no soul in the sense that there's a separate ghost substance that floats around in space. The word soul literally means mind. And the Bible makes absolutely no sense unless you read it correctly and change every instance of soul or spirit to mind, because that's literally what those words mean. The original Hebrew words nefesh, ruach, and neshama all refer to different parts of the psyche, which is Greek, which means mind, and were translated to the words soul and spirit, just like the word Sheol is translated sometimes incorrectly to the word hell. Okay, so there's this major thing you don't get. Literally stop whatever you're doing right now and study ontology, okay? Because you have no idea about ontology. And I'm not trying to put you down or anything. I belong nowhere else. This is where I belong at this moment in time. I'm just trying to, I care. I know that you don't get something. I'm trying to help you to understand it. Because you're the single person in the world that is able to best argue for what I'm saying. You're literally making this argument constantly. You've written books about this, okay? But you don't know what you're arguing for. So anthropomorphization. When I hear that word, I instantly think the word dualism. Dualism is it's an ontological perspective. There's four. So when you say if there's a belief that's like anti-metaphysics, that's literally impossible. You literally cannot escape metaphysics. Every single belief, every single way of human thinking falls under one of the four. You always fall under one of the four, and you fall under the one of the four. I don't know which one you fall under, but okay. So dualism, that's the separation between the material body and the mind or the soul. So the soul basically becomes anthropomorphized. It becomes a space ghost, and so does God or the Creator become a space ghost entity. And this is what Western Christians believe currently for the past 1 or 2 generations. Brand new. Okay, so Neoplatonism, when I hear that, I instantly think monism. That's another kind of ontological or metaphysical belief. And that involves mysticism. And that says that the mind and or the soul mind, which is the same thing, is not separate from the material body. So these two categories, the material body and the mind and the soul, they share a characteristic referred to as the monist God or the Creator, and sometimes referred to as the fabric of reality, a non-entity collection of characteristics. Look up the term divine simplicity. And this is what Christians have believed for the majority of Christianity, because this is Neoplatonism, all right? And you mentioned a few things about materialism. Just to clear that up, just to make sure we're on the same page, monism is sometimes referred to as a kind of materialism because there's no separation between the material body and the mind or the soul. But today, the word materialism, usually when people use the word, they're referring to the third ontological or metaphysical perspective called Physicalism, and it gets even more confusing because Physicalism is sometimes referred to as a kind of monism, because they say that, well, this category of the physical or materials are the basis for everything, but that's not true neutral monism. So sometimes people distinguish the two. I use the terms monism and physicalism to distinguish the two, but when I say monism, I'm referring to either neutral monism or true monism. So number 3, physicalism is a metaphysical perspective that states that the mind and the soul does not exist because it is a construct of the physical and material category. This is what the hard sciences have believed for 1 or 2 generations. There are still old physicists who do not believe this because they're still monists, because they, back in their day, back in their time, science was monist. It wasn't physicalist. Okay? Because, well, Neoplatonist Christianity developed science in the West. There is no dichotomy between Christianity and science. It's literally the same thing. It's monism. And there's a coyote. When you say that atheists are Neoplatonists, you couldn't be further from the truth. Atheists are largely physicalists. They say that the mind soul does not exist because it's a construct, and they make fun of Christians who do the dualism anthropomorphization thing, because atheists say, well, if God created everything, then who created God? They're making an argument against dualism, not Christianity or monism or Neoplatonism. So the number four is idealism. It's a metaphysical perspective that states that the physical and material does not exist because it is a construct of the mind and soul category. It's the exact opposite of physicalism. This is what the soft sciences have believed for 1 or 2 generations. There are still old psychologists who do not believe this. They are still monists, left over from the time when science was monist. For example, Carl Jung. Why do you think Carl Jung came up with the idea of archetypes or the collective unconscious? Literally, at that time, literally everyone was monist. The shit we have, the chaos we have going on, brand new within the past 1 or 2 generations. Atheists, when they talk about, oh, well, if God created everything, who created? That's like new. That was like in the 90s when I was a little kid. That was like a new thing that people, started talking about. It's because atheists are brand new. You know why? Because of psyops, because of spiritual attacks. What do you think happened from these spiritual attacks? What do you think happened? Chaos, disunity, and what do you think is the solution? The exact opposite, which is unity in the collective mind. And Christians have no idea. Literally, no one knows. No one has any idea or cares. Literally, no one cares. And probably, I'm just gonna get ignored eternally. And I could talk about this forever. Like, I don't care. I'm not going to get censored. You literally cannot get censored by talking about stuff like this. Because literally no one knows or cares. Literally no one knows or cares. Okay. You're being censored for completely different reasons. No one cares about this. In fact, the people censoring you literally cannot comprehend what you're talking about. Okay. It's not a lack of metaphysics. It's monism. Almost all religions in humanity have been monist. Science was created by monist Christians, and everyone in the West was monist until very recently, within the past 1 or 2 generations. Why do you think Christians pray together in church just like Buddhist monks pray together? For the exact same reasons. The exact same reasons. Because Buddhism is monist, and so is Neoplatonist Christianity. You can't influence the collective mind unless you get together and think the same thoughts. let me go into a little bit more detail on monism, and explain why it's not a lack of metaphysics. Off the top of my head here. An atom. You have an atom. An atom has certain characteristics that are inherent to it, like magnetism or spin. One of the characteristics is soul or spirit. This is what monism is. Your brain is made up of a bunch of different materials, a bunch of little atoms. So how is it that you have one mind or one soul or one consciousness, whatever word you want to use, and yet you're made up of a bunch of little things? Well, it's because the characteristics which are inherent to the matter, they combine together somehow to make your consciousness. So it goes all the way down to an atom. A single atom has inherently a consciousness, and it also goes up the other way. And so that's literally all the Bible's talking about when it talks about spirits or angels or demons. And when in Revelation, for example, when it talks about the demons combining their power, when it talks about, I'm sorry, I don't have the exact passage, but maybe I can put it right here. In Revelation, there's so many non-stop examples of this, just like you say. It says in Revelation, they're of one mind. It's right there. They're talking about the collective mind, and literally everyone's known about this for all of human history up until just 1 or 2 generations ago. Now, literally no one has any idea what any of this has to do with. So the actual main argument you're arguing for is that Christians believe in the collective consciousness. It's not a lack of metaphysics. It's okay. Well, anyway, I'm done. I know for a fact this is something you don't get, and I know there's things that I don't get. I don't pretend to know everything. There's only a few things that I really understand, and I want to know if I'm wrong. If I'm wrong on something, I want to know, because I don't want to keep talking about something I'm wrong at. I'm incorrect on. So I hope that you're like that too, because the vast majority of people don't want to learn anything new. They've figured it all out. But I keep changing my mind, but not on this, because like you say, you have to get on my level first. You literally have to get on my level first. Yeah, you can change my mind, but you have to get on my level first. So I agree with 100% of what you're saying. It's just one little thing, very, very fundamental thing. It's due to a cognitive bias. You're affected by the psyops, the spiritual attacks, just like everyone else, just like the Christians. And no one knows what's going on, but this is what's going on.